What is Manchester United's best front three? I don't even think Erik ten Hag knows the answer to that question. Now, the reason I say that is because if you look at Manchester United's starting 11 so far this season, not once have we seen the same front three starting consecutive games, apart from the first two matches where Bruno Fernandes was used as a striker. I don't think Erik ten Hag knows what his best front three is. We are constantly chopping and changing, and it's not working. Our attacking form this season has been nothing short of terrible. In 7 games in the Premier League, we've scored just 5 goals. 3 of those came against Southampton. If you remove that game, we've scored just 2 in 6 games. Attacking players very often need to develop an understanding and a chemistry with each other, a linking ability with each other in the final third of the pitch to break teams down. When you constantly chop and change, you don't get that. So Erik ten Hag needs to settle on a front three. But what should that front three look like? Well, let's take a look. So let's assume Manchester United are eventually going to set up in some way that looks something like this. A back four, then Ugarte, Kobbie Mainoo and Bruno Fernandes in the midfield. We're looking for a front three, and we need a balance. We need a balance across the three up top, but also a balance down the sides. Our right winger needs to match with our right back. Our left winger needs to match with our left back, and of course our striker needs to match with our central midfielders as well. We're going to start on the right hand side. What do Manchester United need from this position? For me, one of the big things is two-way ability. The ability to move inside the pitch, perhaps onto your left foot, but also to go outside the pitch onto your right foot. And the reason why I think this is so important is because we know that Erik ten Hag loves 2 versus 2 situations. That is something else that this player needs to be good at. 2v2 situations where your right back is joining the attack. That can be an underlapping run that you're then looking to play the pass to, or it could be an overlapping run, which draws the fullback, and then you yourself as the winger take the ball on, move inside, and look to be dangerous. Now for this to work, our right winger needs to be 2 things in particular. He needs to be a player that has brilliant close control, but also good decision making. It is all well and good getting into these attacking situations, but if you can't control the ball in a tight space, you've got no chance. But also, if you can't make a good final decision, what's the point in doing all of the work in the first place? So Manchester United needs someone in this position who can go both ways, who can control the ball in tight spaces, who can make good decisions in the final third, and I think they need to be a goal threat themselves as well. At the end of the day, this is an attacker in an attacking position. So we need goal output, we need shots on goal, but we also need a little bit of creativity as well. But the big thing for me is about trying to get a balance down this right hand side. If we look at the likes of De Ligt and Ugarte, perhaps they aren't as gifted in tight spaces, so for me our right winger needs to be. Who is that? I think it's fairly obvious, you guys have probably figured it out by now. Amad Diallo should be our starting right winger in my opinion. Now if we move to the left hand side of the attack, the dynamic is a little bit different, and therefore the demands of our left winger are indeed very different. Now the main reason for that is because if you look a little bit deeper into our left back position, we have a bit of a problem there. The problem being we have no fit left backs at the football club, apart from Harry Amas, who is deemed currently not quite ready yet. Dalot could play this position, there's talks Johnny Evans could play this position, but also Victor Lindelof or Lisandro Martinez. What you get from all of those though is players that don't naturally want to attack, and Dalot, who does want to attack, wants to attack inside the pitch. So the job for our left winger is quite difficult. And I think therefore, on the ball, our left winger has to be a player that can do a lot of different things. Again, I think we are looking at two-way threat. This has to be a player that can go outside because they're not going to get the support from the fullback. But also I think this player needs to be someone that can come inside the pitch as well. And I think that takes us on to our next point. They need to be a direct goal threat. I want someone who can provide goals. Fortunately, our left wingers do sort of bring that. But our right side lacks goal output. You know, we're not getting too much attacking support from our left back as well. Kobbie Mainoo doesn't offer too much in terms of goal output. This left winger needs to be able to score. Now, unfortunately for the player that ends up in this position, their job isn't finished there. They still have quite a bit more work to do on the ball. And it mainly comes from the fact that we don't have that player, I don't feel at the moment, who can naturally overlap down the left-hand side. Dalot is always trying to come infield into the pitch. Kobbie Mainoo can get forward into these positions, but I'm not sure he wants to overlap a winger particularly regularly. Our left winger's got a lot of work to do. And I think there's a big focus here on bringing other people into the game. Unfortunately, our left winger at the moment, for the time being, isn't going to be used as a sort of inside forward. Yes, we want goals from them. We want them to come inside when possible. But I think Ten Hag is going to stick with this idea of providing a creative outlet, creating chances for other people. Now, you may disagree with that, but I think it's what Ten Hag is going to do because of our left back situation. Therefore, this player does need to be a player with an eye for a pass. You know, if we're talking about Kobbie Mainoo, when he gets forward, it's going to be underlapping in central areas. When Dalot gets forward, it's in these areas. When Bruno Fernandes makes runs off the ball, it's into these areas. We need a left winger that can find that pass, that can find an underlapping run, or can find a ball into the feet of the striker. I think we need that. We also need, though, just raw dribbling ability. A player that can stand up a fullback, offer the two-way threat that we've already spoken about, but we need someone who can dribble, who can take a player on, and sometimes go wide. Again, the left back isn't going to be there to do it, the central midfielders aren't going to do it, so unfortunately for our left winger, this is a very tough job. They need to be able to go outside as well. And then, to make your life even more difficult, in an ideal world, although I don't think we're going to get this, you would have a player that also brings quite a bit of defensive intensity. But I don't think we're going to get that, to be honest. So the question is, looking at this list of criteria, who is the best option for Manchester United on the left-hand side? There is a strong argument for Garnacho, for the fact that he can go both ways, he can be a goal threat, he can dribble on the outside, he ticks those boxes. But I think the creative work that we need is better suited to Marcus Rashford. Rashford still brings the dribbling work, he still brings, you know, that attacking threat, carrying the ball himself. But when you bring Rashford into the side, he also brings passing. He also brings creativity. We've seen it this season. He's been robbed, if you like, of a few assists by other players not being able to finish. So that's, for me, how this should work. Amad on the right, Rashford on the left. Now we just need a striker. Now the striker position is pretty much a straight shootout between Joshua Zirkzee and Rasmus Højlund. Two fairly young strikers. Two strikers that still feel a little bit raw, far from complete. You know, they're not 20, 30 goals a season strikers in the Premier League. They're not that at this moment in time. But there probably still is a better fit. You know, one probably is more suited than the other, even though we'll use both across the season. So what do we need from our striker? Well, for me to figure this out, I think the main thing to do is actually look across the rest of the team. Look at what we are getting from elsewhere. So the first thing I would suggest is we need someone who can score goals. Sounds obvious, it's a striker, right? But we've got Rashford who can score, we've got Bruno who can score, Amad will chip in with a couple. We need someone who is decent in front of goal. It doesn't have to be, again, a prolific striker, but we need someone who can finish chances. Again, it's not a shock, it's a striker. But I think what we really need, more than that, is a temperament understanding on the ball. Someone who has an ability to slow the game down a little bit. And of course, that's going to lean towards Joshua Zirkzee. But I think it is needed. We've got Bruno Fernandes in this side, who can be a bit loose in possession. He's quite audacious with his passing in the final third. He does overturn the ball on a fairly regular basis, and I would argue the same is the case for Marcus Rashford as well. It's not a criticism, it's a play style. These are players, Rashford and Bruno, that take risks on the ball. They want to make things happen, so they try difficult passes, and at times, as a result, they will lose possession. And that's absolutely fine. But I don't think you can have too many of those players in the team. And I think with Rasmus Højlund, there is a fear that you have too many of those players in the team. Players that are a bit loose at times with their first touch, or just overturn possession. When you bring Zirkzee into the front line, he offers you something a little bit different. He offers you technical security on the ball. Now, as of yet, he hasn't been doing it reliably, if you like, for United, or regularly. But I think if given time to gel with those around him, you know, the whole point of this video, then I think we will see him starting to shine in that area. For the Netherlands, his link-up play looks much better when he's got the right profiles around him. And United do have that. We do have the right profiles. We've got Zirkzee who can kind of draw attention of players, and Rashford can go in behind the other way. But we've also got Bruno Fernandes who can make runs off the ball, past our striker. I think we should look to do that on a more regular basis. We've also got Amad as well though, who offers us something a little bit different. His linking play that we were talking about earlier, Zirkzee wants to get involved in that. Two-touch football in these areas. Tight, technical ability, close control, manipulation to move through an opposition block. Again, I think these guys are suited to each other. So in my opinion, and it is just my opinion, I think Zirkzee is the best option for Manchester United up front at this moment in time. In terms of the backup players behind them, for me, Garnacho at the moment should be used as a left winger. I think it suits our balance a little bit more. So he is the backup or the rotation with Marcus Rashford. On the right hand side, of course, Antony is our rotation with Amad because he is the most similar player stylistically. And then up front, it's Rasmus Højlund. They're not the same profile. They offer something different. Perhaps you pick and choose what games you want to use them in. But I think it works. And I think actually, as a front six, it's not bad at all. It's now a case of Erik ten Hag playing them on a regular basis, letting these players understand and gel with each other, and of course also improves the tactics to help them score more goals. That's what we need to do. But that's just my opinion. Those are just my thoughts. Now I want to hear yours in the comments down below. What is the best front three for United? Who should be on the right? Who should be on the left? And who should be up front? Let me know who and also why. But apart from that, we are finished for today. So thank you guys for watching. Hope you have enjoyed it. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.